$30 billion. That is not a number. It is a scream. It is the sound of 30 billion paper cuts. It is the weight of a mountain made of air. We look at the wreckage and we ask how. We look at the boy in the cargo shorts and the uncombed hair and we see a savior. We see a math prodigy. We see a genius who slept on beanbags while the world slept on him. But the genius was a ghost. The money was a mirage. The empire was a hollowed-out shell, a Trojan horse parked in the middle of the global financial system. We are talking about the largest theft in the history of the digital age. We are talking about Sam Bankman-Fried, a man who promised to save the world while he was busy setting it on fire. He was the youngest person on the Forbes 400. He was the Michael Jordan of crypto. He was the man who sat before Congress and told them how to regulate the future. And all the while, the vault was empty. The customers were screaming into a void. The money was gone. It was spent on luxury penthouses in the Bahamas. It was spent on private jets. It was spent on political favors and celebrity smiles. $30 billion vanished into a black hole of hubris and code. This is not just a story about a bad trade. This is a story about the death of trust. It is a story about how we let a 29-year-old with a gaming addiction hold the keys to the kingdom. We wanted to believe. We wanted the nerd to win. We wanted the math to be real. But the math was a lie. The math was a weapon. And when the weapon misfired, it took everyone down with it. The paradox is the hook. The paradox is the bait. We are told that to do good, we must first do well. We are told that greed is a tool for grace. This is the gospel of effective altruism. It is a philosophy that turns the soul into a spreadsheet. It tells you that working at a soup kitchen is a waste of time. It tells you to go to Wall Street. It tells you to make millions so you can donate millions. It is a seductive logic. It justifies the hustle. It sanctifies the grift. Sam Bankman-Fried was the poster child for this movement. He lived in a $35 million apartment, but he drove a Corolla. He ate vegan meals while he moved billions of dollars across borders like a digital ghost. He told us he didn't care about the money. He told us he was just a steward. He was earning to give. But the paradox is that the more he earned, the less he gave to anyone but himself. He created a world where virtue was a mask for vice. He used the language of philosophy to silence the questions of the regulators. If you are saving the world from a future rogue AI, who cares about a few $billion in customer deposits? If you are preventing the next pandemic, who cares if the books don't balance? We fell for the paradox. We fell for the idea that a man could be a billionaire and a saint at the same time. We forgot that the road to hell is paved with good intentions and leverage to the hilt. We ignored the red flags because the green flags of altruism were flying so high. We let the paradox blind us to the simple truth. A thief is a thief, even if he wears a t-shirt and quotes Peter Singer. The roots of the rot go back to the beginning. They go back to the Stanford campus, where the air is thick with privilege and theory. Sam was a child of law professors. He was born into the elite. He was a math prodigy who skipped the line. He went to MIT. He studied physics. He looked at the world as a series of variables to be solved. In 2013, he met William Mac Askill. He heard the siren song of the earning to give movement. He went to Jane Street Capital. He learned how to trade. He learned how to see the gaps in the market. He learned that the world is full of friction, and friction is where the profit lives. By 2017, the crypto market was a fever dream. Bitcoin was a rocket ship, but the rocket was leaky. Prices in Japan were higher than prices in America. Prices in Korea were a world apart. This was the Kimchi premium. This was the arbitrage. Sam saw it. He quit his job. He started Alameda Research. He called it a research institute because banks don't like crypto traders, but they love researchers. It was the first lie. It was the foundation of the house. He used his connections in the effective altruism world to get loans. He got $150 million from the co-founder of Skype. He moved money through Japanese banks with the precision of a surgeon. He was making $20 million a day. He was a god of the gap, but the gaps always close. The market always learns. By 2018, the easy money was gone. The arbitrage was dead. And that is when the genius became a fraud. That is when the first losses were hidden. That is when the code was tweaked. The origin of the crime wasn't greed, it was the refusal to lose. The mechanism was a backdoor. It was a secret door in a digital vault. In 2019, Sam launched FTX. It was supposed to be the exchange for everyone. It was fast, it was sleek. It had low fees, but FTX was not a business. It was a feeding tube for Alameda research. Alameda was the hedge fund run by Ellison, Sam's on-again, off-again partner. They lived together in a luxury bubble in the Bahamas. They played games while the world burned. The mechanism was simple and brutal. FTX took customer money, real money, dollars, ethers, bitcoins, and it funneled that money to Alameda. There was a line of code, a single devastating exception. Alameda was allowed to have a negative balance. Alameda was allowed to trade with money it didn't have. It was a credit line with no limit and no collateral. To fill the hole, they created a token, FTT. It was a digital chip minted out of thin air. They pumped the price. They put it on the balance sheet. They told the world they were worth billions because they held billions of their own play money. It was a circular lie. It was a snake eating its own tail. When Alameda lost money on bad bets, they just reached into the FTX vault and took more. They used customer funds to buy influence. They gave $40 million to politicians. They bought the naming rights to a stadium. They hired Tom Brady. They hired Larry David. They bought the silence of the world with the money of the people. The mechanism was a pump and dump disguised as a financial revolution. It was a casino where the house was stealing the chips from the players' pockets while they were still at the table. The end came in a heartbeat. It started with a balance sheet, a leak, a whisper on the wind. CoinDesk published a report. It showed that Alameda was built on FTT. It showed that the empire was a house of cards. The market smelled blood. The rival, CZ from Binance, announced he was selling his FTT. It was a bank run in the digital age. It was a stampede. In 3 days, $6 billion tried to leave the platform, but the vault was empty. The money was in the Bahamas. The money was in the political donations. The money was in the bad trades of a hedge fund that didn't know how to hedge. On November 11, 2022, the music stopped. FTX filed for bankruptcy. Sam Bankman-Fried went from a savior to a pariah in 72 hours. The new CEO, the man who cleaned up Enron, said he had never seen anything this bad. He had never seen such a complete failure of corporate control. No board of directors, no accounting, just a group of kids in a penthouse running a $30 billion shell game. Sam was arrested. He was extradited. He stood in a courtroom in New York and watched his friends turn on him. Ellison testified. Gary Wang testified. They told the jury what we already knew. He told them to do it. He was the one in charge. He was the one who moved the money. He was the one who lied. The jury didn't take long. 7 counts. Guilty. 25 years in a federal cell. The genius is now a number. The altruist is now a convict. The conclusion is dark because the conclusion is us. We are the ones who cheered. We are the ones who wanted the easy path to riches. We are the ones who let the suit and tie be replaced by a hoodie and a smirk without asking for the receipts. The fragility of our system is exposed. We live in an era where a person can manufacture a reality out of tweets and hype. We live in a world where $30 billion can be summoned out of the void and returned to the void before the regulators even wake up. The FTX scandal is not just a story about a fraud. It is a story about the death of the expert. It is a story about how easily we are blinded by the light of a fake genius. The crypto market has rebounded since the crash. Bitcoin has hit new highs. The world moves on, but the scars are there. The trust is gone. We are left with the wreckage of a philosophy that thought it could outsmart morality. We are left with the bill. The customers are still waiting for their money. The celebrities are settling their lawsuits. And Sam Bankman-Fried is sitting in a room, perhaps still thinking he can solve the variable, still thinking he can arbitrage his way out of a life sentence. But there is no arbitrage for time. There is no hedge against the truth. The fake genius is the ultimate cautionary tale for the 21st century. It tells us that if something looks too good to be true, it is probably a crime. It tells us that the most dangerous person in the room is the one who claims to be saving your soul while he is reaching for your wallet. The vault is empty. The lights are out. The game is over. We must look closer at the wreckage to understand the depth of the decay. It wasn't just a technical glitch. It wasn't a mistake of the heart. It was a calculated, cold-blooded exploitation of the very systems meant to protect us. The effective altruism movement, once a beacon of rational hope, now carries the stain of this betrayal. It became a shield for the ego. It allowed a young man to believe he was above the law because his goals were so lofty. This is the ultimate hubris, the belief that the ends justify the means on a global scale. When we look at the political donations, we see the true mechanism of the fraud. It was a protection racket. By spreading millions of dollars across both sides of the aisle, Bankman-Fried bought himself a seat at the table where the rules are written. He wasn't just trading crypto, he was trading influence. He was buying the right to be left alone. He was buying the right to keep the backdoor open. The sheer scale of the deception is breathtaking. It involved over 130 entities scattered across the globe, from Antigua to the Bahamas to Delaware. It was a labyrinth designed to confuse, a maze where the money could be lost and found and lost again. The employees at FTX lived in a state of constant, high-pressure loyalty. They were told they were part of something historic. They were told they were the vanguard of a new financial order, but they were just the window dressing for a massive misappropriation of funds. The culture of the firm was one of secrecy and sycophancy. No one dared to question the founder. No one dared to look at the books. And why would they? The parties were too good. The bonuses were too high. The dream was too beautiful to wake up from. The historical echo of this collapse is deafening. It mirrors the South Sea bubble. It mirrors the tulip mania. It mirrors Enron and Madoff. But it is uniquely modern in its speed and its digital nature. In the past, it took decades to build a fraud of this size. Sam Bankman-Fried did it in 3 years. He used the internet as a force multiplier. He used social media to build a cult of personality that transcended borders. He was a global citizen of greed. The impact on the crypto industry has been seismic. It triggered a domino effect that took down other giants. BlockFi fell. Genesis fell. The contagion spread through the digital ecosystem like a virus. It erased $2 trillion in market value in a matter of months. This is the cost of the fake genius. It is a cost borne by the retail investor, the person who put their life savings into a platform they thought was safe. It is a cost borne by the reputation of innovation itself. When the dust settles, we are left with a simple, brutal reality. There are no shortcuts to wealth. There are no geniuses who can transcend the laws of math and the laws of man. The story of FTX is a reminder that the old rules still apply. Transparency matters. Oversight matters. Character matters. We cannot build a future on a foundation of lies. We cannot let the siren song of the next big thing drown out the quiet voice of common sense. The fake genius is gone, but the conditions that created him remain. The hunger for the miracle, the desire for the easy win, the willingness to believe in the impossible. Until we address those flaws in ourselves, there will always be another Sam Bankman-Fried waiting in the wings, ready to take the stage and tell us exactly what we want to hear while he takes everything we have. The tragedy is not just the money, it is the wasted potential. It is the brilliance turned to rot. Sam Bankman-Fried could have been a force for real change. He had the intellect. He had the platform. He had the resources. Instead, he chose the path of the grifter. He chose to build a monument to his own shadow. As he sits in his cell, he is a ghost of what could have been. He is a warning to every entrepreneur, every investor, and every dreamer. The world of finance is not a game. It is not a simulation. It is the lifeblood of our society, and when you poison it, people suffer. The families who lost their homes, the students who lost their tuition, the retirees who lost their security. They are the true victims of the fake genius. Their stories are not told in the glossy pages of Forbes or the hyperactive threads of Twitter. They are told in the quiet desperation of bank statements and bankruptcy filings. We owe it to them to remember. We owe it to them to look past the hoodie and the hype. We owe it to them to demand a world where the math is honest and the leaders are accountable. The era of the crypto cowboy is over. The era of the fake genius has reached its final, pathetic chapter. The book is closed, but the lessons are written in the blood of $30 billion. We must never forget the sound of that scream. We must never forget the weight of that empty vault. We must never forget that the greatest fraud is the one we tell ourselves. The one where we believe that the man on the beanbag is the one who will save us all. He won't. He never was. He was just a boy with a backdoor, and we were the ones who let him in. The final irony is the persistence of the dream. Even now, as the trials end and the sentences are handed down, the machine of speculation continues to grind. The allure of the digital gold rush is too strong. New tokens rise. New geniuses are anointed. The cycle begins again. We are a species that loves a comeback story, but we are also a species that refuses to learn from the crash. The FTX saga should have been a terminal event for the culture of unvetted hype, yet it remains a mere footnote for those still chasing the moon. We see the same patterns emerging in the world of artificial intelligence, in the world of green energy, in every frontier where the gold is thick and the rules are thin. The fake genius is a recurring character in the human drama. He changes his clothes, he changes his industry, but his methods remain the same. He finds a new philosophy to wrap around his greed. He finds a new technology to hide his tracks, and he finds a new audience of believers who are tired of the old world and desperate for the new one. The only defense is a ruthless skepticism, a demand for proof, a refusal to be charmed. We must become our own editors. We must cut through the noise of the marketing and the static of the celebrity endorsements. We must look at the balance sheet, not the t-shirt. We must value the boring, the stable, and the transparent over the exciting, the volatile, and the hidden. If we don't, we are just waiting for the next $30 billion paper cut. We are just waiting for the next scream. The history of finance is a history of forgotten lessons. Let this be the one we finally remember. Let this be the moment we stop looking for saviors in the code and start looking for integrity in ourselves. The fake genius is a mirror. He shows us our own greed, our own laziness, and our own desire to be fooled. If we don't like what we see, we shouldn't blame the mirror. We should change the face looking back at us. The empire is gone. The man is in a cage. But the ghost of the fraud still haunts the markets, waiting for the next person to close their eyes and hope for a miracle. Don't be that person. Don't let the next genius in. Keep the door locked. Keep the lights on. And never ever trust a man who tells you he is stealing from you for your own good. The math doesn't work that way. It never has. It never will. The end is here, and it is as cold and hard as a prison floor. The genius was fake. The fraud was real. The $30 billion is a ghost that will haunt our economy for a generation. And that, in the end, is the only truth left standing. The math is finally settled. The account is closed. The void remains.